Hello. Today I'm going to tell you about a dramatic rescue that shook the world. It involves an 18-month-old girl who, while playing with other children in her backyard, suddenly fell into an abandoned well. When the adults in the house noticed and tried to rescue her, they realized the well was only 20 centimeters wide, far too narrow for an adult to fit inside. The well was not only dark and damp, but also posed a risk of oxygen depletion. Those above ground had no idea exactly where the little girl was trapped beneath the earth. What followed was a rescue operation that captured global attention. This story begins in the state of Texas, the second largest state in the U.S. in both land area and population. In West Texas lies the city of Midland, a key transportation hub and a major economic center driven largely by oil extraction. The main character of our story is a little girl named Jessica McClure, who was just 18 months old at the time. Born on March 26, 1986, Jessica lived with her young parents. Her mother, Reba McClure, a 17-year-old housewife, and her father, Louis McClure, an 18-year-old handyman. Jessica had an aunt who, for some reason, was hosting the family at her home in Midland. This aunt ran a daycare center, her primary job being childcare. Due to a shortage of staff, Jessica's mother occasionally helped out at the daycare, so Jessica often came along to play with the other children. For the first 18 months of her life, Jessica was like any other ordinary child, unknown to the world, until a fateful event changed everything. On an otherwise normal day, no one could have predicted that a shocking incident would unfold right in the daycare's backyard, drawing the attention of people across the United States. Let's rewind to October 14th, 1987. It was a Wednesday, and since early morning, for children had been dropped off at Jessica's aunt's daycare. The aunt was highly experienced in childcare and well-regarded in the community. Parents often entrusted their kids to her when they were busy. It was supposed to be a typical day, but the aunt had to step out unexpectedly, leaving Jessica's mother, Reba, in charge of the children. Reba, a young and inexperienced mother, took Jessica and the 4 other kids to the daycare's backyard to play. The yard had some toys for the children, including swings and a seesaw, and was surrounded by a tall fence that kept outsiders from easily entering, making it relatively safe. Reba played with the kids, pushing them on the swings and watching them enjoy themselves. Suddenly, the phone rang inside the house. Hearing it, Reba left the children in the yard and went inside to answer. A few minutes later, she heard a loud cry from outside. She rushed back to the yard and saw the 4 children still playing normally, but something felt off. Her daughter Jessica was nowhere to be seen. Reba wondered where her little girl could have gone. The backyard was fenced in and no one could easily come or go. As panic set in, she noticed a few of the children staring at the ground. Approaching them, she discovered a shallow, abandoned well with a diameter of about 20 centimeters. It had been covered by a large, heavy stone to prevent anyone from falling in, but somehow that stone had been moved. Reba instantly realized that Jessica had fallen into the well. Terrified, she ran back inside and called the police. 3 minutes later, sirens echoed through the neighborhood as police arrived at the scene. After assessing the situation, they tried to peer into the well, but its narrow opening made it impossible for them to enter. They called Jessica's name down the shaft, hoping for a response, but her voice was too faint to hear. The police then lowered a microphone carefully into the well. Finally, they picked up the soft, whimpering cries of Jessica. She was scared but alive. Once they confirmed Jessica was down there, the police realized they couldn't rescue her on their own. They immediately contacted a professional rescue team. With the arrival of the experts, the official rescue operation began. Their first task was to pinpoint Jessica's exact location in the well. Reba explained that the well was deep, once used for water, but now abandoned. She didn't know its exact depth, possibly dozens of meters. Using the microphone, the team measured the length of the cord lowered into the well and analyzed the sound of Jessica's cries. They determined she was trapped about 6.7 meters below the surface, her body stuck in a narrow pipe. There might have been more space below her, meaning she could fall further if dislodged. News of a little girl trapped in a well, quickly spread through the local community. Curious and concerned residents began gathering at the rescue site to watch. After careful discussion, the rescue team devised a plan. They would dig a parallel shaft next to the well where Jessica was trapped. Once they reached her depth, they would tunnel horizontally to reach her and pull her out. With a feasible strategy in place, the team brought in a large drilling rig, typically used for underground cable work. They knew the drilling would cause vibrations, and since Jessica's position was precarious, held up by an unknown factor, they had to be cautious. The rescue shaft couldn't be too close to her well, where the vibrations might cause her to fall deeper. But it also couldn't be too far, or it would take too long to dig the horizontal tunnel. After precise calculations, they decided to place the rescue shaft 1.5 meters away from Jessica's well, and the drilling began. However, the operation didn't go as smoothly as hoped. After digging just 2 meters, the drill hit a layer of hard rock, slowing progress significantly. During this time, the team periodically stopped the machinery to talk to Jessica, ensuring she was still safe. The loud noise of the drill made it impossible to hear her otherwise. After more than 10 hours of drilling, they successfully created a rescue shaft 76 centimeters wide and 8.8 meters deep. Now, they needed to dig a horizontal tunnel to reach Jessica's well. She was stuck at 6.7 meters, so if the tunnel was at her exact level, the machinery could injure her. To be safe, they chose to dig the horizontal tunnel below her position. Equipped with headlamps and tools, the team descended into the rescue shaft using ropes and began tunneling sideways. The confined space forced them to use small handheld drills, but the rock underground was incredibly hard, making the work slow and inefficient. Oxygen levels were low, so team members had to rotate frequently, further delaying progress. Jessica had already been trapped for 14 hours, and as night fell, the team pressed on with handheld drills in the darkness. Though progress was sluggish, they had no better options. The cold night air worried the rescuers, so they lowered a thermometer to Jessica's position and found the temperature dropping rapidly. Someone suggested sending food down to her, but a doctor on site objected. He explained that without knowing if Jessica had internal injuries, eating could cause secondary harm. Dehydration could also set in within 48 hours of eating, worsening her condition if she wasn't rescued in time. Following the doctor's advice, the team focused on warming the ground around her instead. Digging the horizontal tunnel was a grueling task. The team had to break through 1.5 meters of solid rock with handheld drills, advancing only 2 centimeters per hour. At that rate, it would take about 3 days to reach her, a dangerously long time for Jessica. After over 10 hours of relentless work, the rescuers began to tire, slowing the operation further. Word spread to the media, and as reporters arrived, the team seized the opportunity to broadcast a call for help, hoping experienced rock drillers would step in. The next morning, October 15th, 1987, skilled volunteers arrived to assist. Some onlookers offered ideas too. One suggested their skinny but strong son could squeeze into the well to pull Jessica out, while another proposed dropping super sticky glue to lift her. These impractical suggestions were dismissed as too risky. Meanwhile, Jessica, despite being trapped for so long, showed incredible resilience. She even sang her favorite nursery rhyme, Winnie the Pooh, calming those above and reassuring the rescuers below that she was still alive. Her singing was broadcast live on television, turning Jessica into a national sensation. News of her plight spread from Midland to all of Texas and soon across the country. TV stations sent crews to report live from the scene 24/7, touching the hearts of millions. Jessica became America's baby, with people everywhere praying for her safe rescue. After 28 hours underground, the site was packed with onlookers awaiting updates. Jessica's father, Louis, spoke to the press, saying, "We'll stay here until she's out. We'll never give up." Reba, overwhelmed with guilt, blamed herself. "If only I hadn't answered that call and paid more attention to her." Every second felt precious as they wondered how long their little girl could hold on. By October 16th, 1987, the third day of her ordeal, the sun rose over a bustling rescue site. Rescuers, medics, geologists, and contractors worked tirelessly against the clock. A businessman who saw the news on TV arrived with an idea. He told the team, "I have a new water jet cutting machine. It's sharp enough to slice through hard rock quickly, far more efficient than handheld drills." The team agreed it was worth a shot, but the machine was in Houston, 768 kilometers away. The businessman had already arranged for it to be flown in. While waiting, the rescuers kept digging with handheld tools and checking on Jessica. But 5 hours had passed since her last response. She'd gone silent. The mood darkened as the doctor warned that after over 40 hours without water, Jessica might have slipped into a coma. Her life hung in the balance. Then came a breakthrough. After 2 days of nonstop effort, the team finished the horizontal tunnel. Just as the water jet cutter arrived with 3 operators, they heard Jessica's faint cries again. She was still alive. The machine wasn't needed yet, as the tunnel was complete, but they placed a steel beam below Jessica to prevent her from falling further. Now, they faced a new challenge. The tunnel was so narrow that only one person could fit inside. They needed the right rescuer to bring her out. A roofer named Ron Short volunteered. He was born without collarbones and could collapse his shoulders, making him ideal for tight spaces. Though his physique was perfect, the team declined, citing his lack of rescue experience. Instead, they chose Robert O'Donnell. 45 hours after Jessica's fall, Robert tied a climbing rope to the rescue shaft and crawled into the tunnel, calling her name. He soon heard her cries clearly. The tunnel was cramped, especially at the junction to Jessica's well, allowing him only to extend one arm and feel for her. He discovered she'd fallen with one leg bent backward and the other pointing upward, stuck in that awkward position for 2 days. A small ledge had miraculously kept her from falling deeper. Robert gently comforted her as he tried to free her bent leg, but he couldn't reach her other foot. Forcing her out risked injury, so he retreated to report back. The team decided to widen the tunnel entrance. The water jet cutter proved its worth, slicing through the rock effortlessly. They tested it carefully to avoid harming Jessica, and fortunately, it worked without incident. The doctor instructed Robert to avoid injuring Jessica's head at all costs. Robert returned to the tunnel with another rescuer, Steve Forbes. Though the entrance was slightly wider, it was still tight. Robert could barely reach Jessica's upward leg. To free her, he needed to straighten both legs. He applied paraffin to the well walls to lubricate them, easing her stiff, painful legs into a flat position as she cried in discomfort. Robert soothed her, gradually aligning her legs. At last, he pulled her into the tunnel, secured her to a wooden board, and handed her to Steve. At 7:55 p.m. on October 16th, 1987, 58 hours after her fall, Robert and Steve brought Jessica safely back to the surface. The gripping rescue of the 18-month-old, snatched from the jaws of death, overwhelmed onlookers with emotion. Millions watching on TV cheered as if it were their own victory. Steve held Jessica, her face and arms caked in dirt, her eyes nearly shut. Medics took her from him, rushing her to Midland Memorial Hospital in an ambulance. Tests showed she was 15% dehydrated, but had no broken bones or wounds needing stitches. Doctors worried they'd need to amputate her foot due to necrosis from poor circulation, but hyperbaric therapy saved it. They removed only one toe and reconstructed her foot. After a month of treatment, Jessica recovered enough to leave the hospital, walking hand in hand with her parents. Jessica's rescue became one of history's most famous underground operations. A photo of her, dirt-streaked in a rescuer's arms, won a Pulitzer Prize for photographer Scott Shaw. Dubbed Everybody's Baby, Jessica received flowers, toys, and donations from around the world. Hundreds of thousands of dollars were placed in a trust fund for her to access at age 25. 2 years later, in 1989, she and her family visited the White House to meet President George H.W. Bush. Wearing a red dress and glasses, Jessica charmed the president, who praised her strength. Her story inspired TV debates, documentaries, and an ABC film that year, featuring Beau Bridges and Pat Hingle, with real rescuers in cameo roles. The well was sealed with a sturdy iron cap inscribed, "For Jessica, October 16th, 1987, with love from all of us." Jessica underwent 15 surgeries over the years, leaving scars on her forehead and foot, but she recovered fully. Sadly, her parents divorced in 1990 under the strain of sudden fame. Robert O'Donnell, the rescuer who lifted her out, struggled with PTSD and took his own life in 1995. Despite these tragedies, Jessica grew up sheltered and peaceful. She learned of her past as a teen when she asked her stepmother about a baby in a 9/11 documentary, stunned to discover it was her. In May 2004, Jessica graduated from Greenwood High School near Midland. On January 28, 2006, at 20, she married Daniel Morales in a church 60 kilometers from Midland. They met at a daycare where she worked with his cousin's sister. They had a son in 2007 and a daughter in 2009. At 25, on March 26, 2011, Jessica accessed her trust fund, but the 2008 recession had depleted it. She used what remained to buy a modest home in Midland. Now 31 years after her ordeal, divorced and living in Midland, Jessica works as a special education assistant at an elementary school for disabled children. She uses her story to teach kids humility and the value of life, saying, "My life is a miracle. I want my kids to learn kindness and resilience from it, not be defined by it." This story ends here. From a criminal psychology perspective, Jessica's case highlights resilience under extreme stress, not criminality. Her survival reflects human endurance, while Robert's PTSD shows the hidden toll on rescuers. It's a testament to how trauma shapes lives differently. Jessica thrived while others faltered. Goodbye until next time.